see. And we are live. Hello, Kelly. Hello, hello. How are you today?
Hello, I am good, Amy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you
Good,
so much
good.
for joining me. And I know we're both glad to be inside because it's quite
Oh
chilly
my
out.
gosh, yeah. No kidding. I know. Oh,
Yes, I feel very thankful I'm
where did
not.
this come from?
Yeah, yeah, I know. But I'll tell you what, it's so cold where I'm originally from up in Chicago. I'm quite thankful
Same.
I'm not getting up and having to go, although I miss my students, braving the
Yeah,
wind, and happy you
yeah.
could join me. And
Yeah.
so let's jump right into it. And I know there are so many things, and I love everything since I've met you that you've said. And I just thought that by having you a guest today, as a guest today, and this is streaming on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, parents, especially parents of juniors, could
Mm,
really, sink their teeth in. If they have a comment or a question, they could post that and just walk away feeling a little bit more in control with, here we are, it's January, and especially if you're a parent of a junior, college
mhm.
applications are right around the corner.
That they are,
Yeah,
yes. And I'm
yeah,
a parent of a junior too. So
that's
so
right.
I tell, my parents, my clients, I say, "Hey, listen, I don't just do this professionally, I live this as well." So
Yes.
so I'm right there with you.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And um, I mean, where to start off? I think here's a great question, and I'm still we're still finalizing some essays with some seniors who have decided to add
Same.
schools, or then scholarships will come as far as
Mhm.
once they get in. But looking back on last year, as far as what you saw with college admissions, because I know part of this, our
Mhm.
main focus today is just advising parents what they can do now. But i'm
Yeah.
just i'm just curious. So for example, I felt like I had more students apply to more colleges
Oh,
last year.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
guess my question is, did you see any differences from, in
Mhm. Mhm.
2023, and what were they? And
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, the last 5 years especially, each year, more and more and more get added to the college list.
okay.
But there's that pressure, right? Because, since COVID,
Mhm.
things have just been a little scrambled out there. So these poor kids, they don't know what to expect. And
Right.
so now they're just casting an extremely wide net.
Yes.
And, as a consultant, I feel like, they need to rein it in a little bit sometimes,
Mm.
but then other times, depending on the student and where they're applying to,
Mhm.
yeah, they kind of
Mhm.
do need to
Mhm.
cast a pretty wide net. So
Right.
there's a
Right.
lot of work for some
It
of
it
them,
is
more
it is a
so.
lot of work. I mean, I have some students with Kelly. We have like a 37-page Google Doc with the
Mm,
essays. As I know
yeah.
that doesn't surprise you, but I did read. I think it was a statement published by the Common App, saying students last year, as of December. So this wasn't even now, as of January. As of
Mhm.
December, they had more students applying to more
Yep.
schools than ever before. And so, from your point of view, that just
Yeah.
creates a lot more
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, every year there's a few more colleges that add on to the Common App. So
Mhm.
so it just makes it easier, right, for the
Mhm.
students. They're in there, they fill out the basic form of the Common App, and then, it's kinda easy to just keep
Yes.
adding a college
Yeah.
here and there if they think it's right for them.
Yes,
So,
yes,
mhm.
definitely. And sometimes when they do have four more essay questions to write, they'll think twice about that. But
Yeah.
so it's interesting because we got through the holidays, and now it's, the new year, and I thought it would be really valuable for you to share, especially if parents are watching this. And I get a lot of parents watching this on the replay also, who can't be here and now with us. But what would you say parents, if they could walk away from our time together today and
Mhm.
just take some notes and let this sink in, and when the timing is right, share some of your advice as far as getting organized for upcoming college applications, and just feeling like they have a little bit more control, because there is so much out of our
Yeah.
control.
It's very overwhelming, and, for a parent, especially going through this the first time,
Yeah.
it's way different than when we went through it as,
Yes.
young teenagers. So yeah, so, we want to do the best for our children, and we want to prepare them the best way possible. And there is a light bulb moment that tends to happen right about now, especially for the juniors. But there are many steps, yes. So we're going to outline 3 of them today. So just know there's more steps that probably you do need to take. But as of right now, if you are a junior in high school right now, these are going to be my 3 biggest takeaways that you really need to pay attention to.
Okay, so awesome.
And
Yeah,
just know that this is not a one size fits all approach. This is definitely something that is your journey. So, if your friend is doing this or a neighbor recommends it, stick to what you want to do,
right,
right? So, stick
right.
with what works for you best. But number one, and I might get some eye rolls on this, but number one is academic excellence, right? First and foremost, they will be looking at your grades. So, and I know that people are probably like, well, that's obvious, Kelly, but here's the thing. I don't know what it is, but at this time of year, something happens to their schedules, just everything increases.
Mhm,
And it's
mhm,
just a natural thing that their grades start to take a back seat to something. So they just can't. I need these kids to
mm,
really pay attention, especially my juniors, because when they finish this year, those grades are showing up on their transcript first.
right,
So, when the
right.
colleges are reviewing them. So that's why it's so important to really, really pay attention to,
I think
your
so.
academics.
Yeah.
Um,
And
in
if I
course
could
selection.
just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree with you. And as a former high school English teacher, it seems to me like as we head into February and March, I don't know if kids are exhausted,
Oh, yeah.
but it's
Mhm.
like I ran the mile when it was really my running days. It's like that third lap on the track, right? It's like the third
Yes.
quarter, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so
Oh,
tired from the first. I
yes.
still
Yep.
have one to go." So
Keep
I think you're
going.
absolutely right.
Mhm.
I love that, and I think we could take a deep dive into that another time. That's
Oof,
really
for
super
sure.
valuable.
Yes, yes. And so just remember, as you're doing your course selections here in the
Mm,
next month or 2,
mm,
keep up that rigor of your academics. They want to see that for next year as well. So don't get that senioritis already and start to slack
mm.
back on your course selection for next year. Keep
Right.
going strong with that. Number 2
Yeah,
is
yeah.
your
But I had a quick question because I get asked this all the time,
yeah.
and I'll say again, which is why I'm so happy I met you. I'll say I'm not a college consultant or high school advisor, but here's the question I have parents ask me along the lines of if the end result is grades, it's this, it's so really then, is my son or daughter better served taking a lower level class? And this is
Mm.
so loaded, and I have so much to say here, and I'm dying to know what you have to say. So
Same.
taking like a lower level class and getting a higher A so the colleges see those grades, or
Mhm,
if they
mhm.
can,
Yeah.
taking that, yeah, what do you think?
It's there is always that question that I do get asked as well,
Okay.
and it really depends on the student. Here's my answer.
Yeah.
Yes, an AP course is always gonna be looked at very fondly by, the academic committee or
Yeah.
the admissions committee. So, we want to try and do as many APs as we can reasonably,
Okay.
right? But they've gotta maybe be in subjects that they like too. So,
Right.
kind of feel that part of it out.
Right.
If you're not going to be majoring in something that, speaks to an AP subject that, you feel is being forced upon you, don't do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So, if you're going in the math direction, yeah, AP
Yeah.
Calc, AP Stats,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going in the science direction, then
Yeah.
obviously bump up
Okay.
there. But, yes, unfortunately, the colleges do really like to see those AP courses.
Right.
It is just, it's something that they feel really prepares the student for
Yeah.
college. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, I've had plenty of kids get into college without APs. So,
Of
if they
course.
want to stick to an honors course,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Right, right,
It
right.
just depends.
And a couple of things. I would think that helping a student get to know themselves is really where you step in also. Just what you
Mhm.
said, like,
Mm.
don't ignore the fact that math comes really easy to you, or you love science, or you love English. The teacher assigns the novel, and instead of taking 2 weeks, you're done with it in 4 days. Don't,
Yeah.
and that's Kelly, where I think your
Key
coaching and really
strengths.
getting to
Yeah.
know the student is so valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, part of my approach is that. So, I try to be their friend, but also, let them know I'm here to help you. What questions do you have? And
Right,
it's a safe place, it's a confident place.
right.
So I may have other students from their class that I'm working with, but
Yes.
we don't share. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's great.
Mhm.
That's great. Okay. So pushing for the grades. Don't get tired, especially this third quarter.
Keep going strong.
And you're not a second semester senior yet. Finish strong. And we
Yes.
know that. And then from my neck of the woods, of course, there are so many just different educational tips. Like right now, I feel like I'm saying to a lot of students, get to know your teachers. Go
Oh,
talk to your
yeah,
teachers, even if you're
yeah,
so really pushing for those grades
yeah,
when we're
yeah.
thinking of. I've read that so many times, Kelly, as far as the grades and the classes students are taking really academically has oh, we have a question here from Marianne Painter. Hello, Marianne. So Marianne's asking, Kelly, what about classes like yearbook and possibly being a yearbook editor?
Mhm.
She's concerned that yearbook would take away from her daughter taking an AP class. So
Mm,
hi, Marianne. Thank you so much. I think that's an excellent question.
yeah.
Do you get the question, Kelly?
Yes, and
Yeah.
so my comment would be this: what I love, and I've had plenty of yearbook editors come through my pathway, but what I love about that is that it shows leadership, and
Yeah.
that's what they're going to look at that as being
Yeah.
is that she's taking a leadership position within her school, within her community, and let's face it, I know that they go out there and take a lot of pictures. They're at all the events, and so it's very much a social position. So depending on what she is wanting to do in college,
Mm,
this could play very well into, what she wants to do. But,
right.
I wouldn't hold too much weight into that as being a
Mhm.
problem. I would actually look at it as being a good thing because it's going to show a really great social side of her that, a
Yes.
lot of kids don't have.
Yeah, I think that's true. Social leadership, excellent time management. I think that. So I hope, Marianne, thank you for asking your question. I hope that answers it. That is an excellent point as far as you see students in their minds weighing like, well, what is going to look better for the colleges if
Yeah.
I have this, team captain or yearbook
Mhm.
editor versus if I'm really insecure about taking AP. So these are excellent, excellent questions. I think
Mhm.
to think about to ask a professional like you. So thank you. I think
Oh,
that's great.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So grades, grades, grades. I hear it.
Grades,
Yes.
grades, grades. So beyond grades, we kind of jumped into it a little bit here, but extracurricular
Mm,
involvement. So
mhm, mhm,
colleges want well-rounded students, is what they say. But in the last few years, what they've really started to
mm,
say is pick a few things and do them really well. So what they
mm.
realized was the messaging was coming across as these poor students were having to do so many different things. They were burning themselves out before they got to college.
Yeah.
They don't want that. What they really want you to do is invest in something really authentically. So what I tell kids is commitment and consistency when it
Mm,
comes to extracurriculars. So if you start something, really try to stick with it. And then if you're in something, try, especially now when you get to the junior year, senior
yeah.
year, really try for those leadership positions. And I
Mm,
don't care if it's secretary, president, whatever it is,
right.
show that you're willing to step up and do a
Right.
little bit more, and that goes a really long ways in the
Yeah.
eyes of the admissions.
I bet it does. I think it's so interesting though, thinking of kids, right? And really knowing kids. And it's tricky because it really isn't until a lot of times I've found like the end of junior year, especially
Hmm.
for boys, not all
Oh
the time, of
yeah.
course, that they are starting to see themselves in a different light, that they are stepping into or knowing they should step into leadership roles. But I
Yeah.
think what's hard for them is if they just don't have that at a young
Hmm.
freshman and sophomore age. But we are
Yes.
focusing on for junior year here. So I think that is really relevant and that's super valuable. Thank you.
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you do when you have the student who says, okay, I have my activity list, and it's like this 16-page list. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a rarity, I won't say. I don't get too many kids with that long of a
yeah,
list, but
yeah,
but
yeah.
I do get some that have a really long list. And I do have a weighting system that we do. So I have them
Oh, that's
start
cool.
what we
Yeah.
call their brag sheet
Yes.
way before now. And so because it is easy to forget what we've done even back in ninth grade. So I have them
Yeah.
start the process pretty early. But by the time we get to say their rising senior summer, we do start to weight what is
Yeah.
more important. A lot of it is due to time spent, right? So if
Yeah.
they've been doing something since ninth grade versus something they did for 1 week over the
Right.
summer,
Yeah.
in junior year, something
Yeah.
like that, there's obviously some weightage to
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so we kind of
That's,
look at
yeah.
it through the lens of what's a little bit more important or
Right.
will show you best on your
Yes,
application.
yes. That's really interesting. I'm thinking of a couple of things and only focusing on the essays. I would argue that a lot of times it's pretty evident how
Mhm.
connected and how committed, like you were saying, a student has been to an activity, or if they're just like squeezing water from a stone to try to write about it. And I
Mhm.
had a couple of students tell me about, so last summer, they were volunteering and helping kids and young adults with special needs.
Mhm.
And these students volunteering every day were saying how frustrated they were by some other students who weren't, they were just there,
Mhm.
but they
Mhm.
really weren't even. And they literally
Yeah.
told people, oh, we're just here. We're just doing this to add this to
Yeah.
our college
Yeah.
applications. And that's, you know, in working with these kids on their essays,
Mhm.
sometimes it's like,
Mhm.
well, perhaps we should talk about something else, because it's that
Yeah.
consistency and that commitment. So I
Yep.
love that you're shedding a light on that sooner
Yep.
rather than they find them. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
So kind of going back to, well, what if they can't get a leadership position, in this club that they've been in,
Oh,
forever.
right. Yeah,
But,
right.
I tell the kids a lot of times too, where you can show that is being proactive on your own and doing things on your own, right? Not something that's school driven, but maybe some, community service.
Yeah,
So, but here's the thing with that. Don't just jump around and do a bunch of different
yeah.
things. Try to really get in. Like you said, you can kind of see it in their essays, but when they spend the time and they really get to know that
Mm,
organization that they're serving for, it will come through definitely as being way more authentic
right.
than, okay, I spent a week here and then a couple weeks later I spent a week here. So really try to invest yourself into
Absolutely.
something that you have a little bit of a
Right.
passion for, or even if you don't know you have a passion for it, maybe you develop it through,
Right.
being there.
And again, Kelly, this is where I think, especially starting, and how old are students when they start to work with? I mean, do you take students as young as like freshmen?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and in
yeah,
fact, I'll even have some that come on as early as 8th grade.
right,
So, when
right,
that happens, the process is, a little bit slower paced, but it's
yeah.
okay because, for my kids, especially that are looking at competitive schools, it is sometimes valuable to
I
to
think,
start
oh, I
at an
think it's so
earlier.
valuable, Kelly. Yeah, I
Mhm,
think it
mhm.
really helps. It's like,
Yeah,
here's a map almost,
yeah.
and you're such
Yes,
a
it's a
wonderful,
roadmap.
a
They might say
roadmap.
what a roadmap is, but yeah,
Oh
it's a
yeah, we were
roadmap.
talking about that,
I've got
right? They
Waze,
should,
I don't know what a roadmap
use,
is.
or yeah, their phone. That's a roadmap. Yeah, or a blueprint, right? So okay, so and I know I think we said 3 tips, and then I have a couple of
Yep.
other questions for you.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
what is
So the
your, yeah?
the third tip is college research, right? Don't get
Mm,
to the start line next summer, next fall and say,
mm,
"Okay, what colleges do I want to look at?" Really start to formulate a plan now on
mm,
what is a good fit for you. And
right.
I tell parents and I tell students, look at it from three lenses. There's the academic fit, the social fit, and then probably most important for the parents, the financial fit.
Oh,
So
right.
start to have those conversations now about affordability, what you're willing to do. If you're not willing to go out of state, then tell them that. Don't let them, go too far out on a search and then they get excited about something that is, financially out of reach.
Right.
But then the other thing is too, they need to be realistic about, what their GPA is and what, they can do from a safety target reach standpoint, I say, with their college list. So we want a well balanced list. So
Right.
that's why it's important that they really do some of that due diligence now,
Yeah.
get that legwork out of the way. This time of year, spring break, great time to tour the
Right.
campuses.
Right. Right.
So,
Okay,
that
that's
certainly
awesome.
helps.
Yeah, yeah, that
Mhm.
certainly helps. So I did have these two questions, but when you're saying that, I call it like, I don't know what you, I just like, I like what you said better. I said like safety, no, no, moderate, and then stretch,
Yep, yep,
something like that. Yeah. But
yep.
here's my
Every
question. So it seems to me, I mean, and I love your opinion on this, but students now who are getting deferred to regular admissions, whereas
mm,
maybe 2 years ago their credentials would have gotten right in. And I'm thinking specifically of 3 schools in particular. So, like, what do you do with that? Because
Mhm.
maybe those schools were a student's safety school, and then they're like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I
yeah.
thought I would get in, and I'm not." I mean, like, being a college consultant, like, how do you get, like,
Well,
stats like, "Hey,
yeah.
hey, everyone," or I mean,
Yeah, that's, we do keep up with, I know I keep up with my students. I am fortunate that, I belong to a great organization that works with consultants like myself. And so we have sort of these help desks that we can go to and get that
love it.
information. But hence why college lists are exploding so much, right? They're getting so big is because, what is happening to the safety schools? So, like you said, what was once a safety school last year or 2 years ago for this student might not be. So, there is a lot of what my students like to do early on. I still push for as much as possible in the early action round for my students
You do?
because here's the
Okay.
thing.
Tell
I
me.
want them to enjoy their senior year as much as possible. So, as much as they can do and get off their plates and get it done, if they get deferred, we have that conversation. If you get
Okay,
deferred, you
that's a
get
really good
deferred.
question.
But we want to at least try because there's some things now that we just can't control.
Yeah,
And so, I
right.
tell them it's just sometimes
You
it's out
can't
of our hands.
control that
Yeah.
thousands and thousands more people have applied to certain
Yeah.
schools. But here's my question about that. And this is why I love talking to you because I just have, so many things you say, like trigger so many, like bits of just different categories. And the one is this, it's like, well, what if you have a senior, and this is, okay, the question is,
Mm,
early action or regular decision, especially if
mhm.
you have, like a senior who's really starting to blossom. So, not that they necessarily did badly, not one of
Yeah.
these like, oh, I really turned, but like literally, like the senior year classes are amazing. Like, really,
Yeah.
you're taking like
Yeah.
AP physics and all the things,
Mhm.
even like AP lit, and then put
Mm.
in like AP calc. So, what about that student, Kelly? Like, should that student who's really cranking it up senior year, and I know you're going to say there's not a cookie cutter answer, are they better served waiting to regular decision so those first semester grades are
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. And, I definitely have students that we do have that discussion about. So that is an excellent point. It really does matter what the school is, who the student is,
okay?
and what those classes are. So, again, did they just take on a bunch of APs in their senior year? And, they're, like you said, they're really ramping up the rigor. They're doing excellent.
Yeah,
Then yeah, it might not
it
hurt to
might
go
not
into the
hurt.
regular decision
Right,
round.
right, right, right.
It just again depends on, what the overall picture looks like too.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes,
there's
I think
so many
that's
factors.
so many factors. I think that's super interesting because I've heard so many different things, and I always say I'm not a college consultant. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Our
You're
time
welcome.
is just flying by here.
It
I mean,
has.
early action, regular decision, changes with college admissions. Um, you know, I think this is really great. I did have 2 other questions, but I've also like packed those on with like 4 other that I've already asked you. So I mean, so I think we're at the end of our time here. Maybe I'll hold those
Yeah,
questions for next
that's
time.
fine. Yeah.
But thank you for joining me. And will you please tell our audience, and a lot of people watch this on the replay. This is being streamed to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Where can parents get a hold of you?
Oh, awesome. Well, yes. So I have a website, college admissions with an S, strategies.com.
Okay.
And then you can book a 30-minute free consultation by going to my website. There is a link on there. And so click that. You'll see my calendar, pick a time that works for you. And then we set up a Zoom and everything takes off from there. But
So
yeah, that's probably
exciting.
the best way.
Okay.
And then, of course, my email address is on there as well.
Oh, yeah, fabulous. Okay, so college admissions strategies. So please reach out to Kelly. I know she is filling up quickly and she's
Yes.
absolutely wonderful. And
Thank you.
thank you, thank you. And as we close, is there some tips, something we haven't covered, one last bit of advice that you would like to share? And I know we've done a lot, so no pressure.
Yes, yes. No, thank you. Probably the biggest thing I get asked right now is tests, SAT, ACT,
Oh,
especially for
right.
my juniors. And my thing is, yes, take the tests. Figure
Of
out which
course.
one, SAT or ACT. I know there's a lot of test optional colleges out there still. We don't know what's going on, even in our own backyard. So we're kind of waiting here to see what's happening, even with the UNC system. So I know that's
Okay, that's
a lot of
super
colleges are on our
interesting.
kids' list. So really take the time, especially, my
Yeah.
2025s, my 2026s, my 2027s. So any of those classes really start to get back into test mode, test prep mode with
Okay.
ACTs and SATs. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fabulous. I think that that's a whole half an hour discussion.
It really
And
would be an hour probably at least.
I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think you're right. I mean, so many kids, it seems, were delighted that they
Yeah.
possibly didn't have the pressure of having to take and
Mhm.
submit those scores. I know I've been reading there are a lot of colleges saying, maybe this
Yeah.
wasn't the best. Yeah. So I know there's a
Well,
lot of research. Yeah.
test optional, but then they're kind of whispering in the corner, test preferred.
Right.
So, you're kind
Right.
of going, what does this mean?
I
But
agree.
yeah, I know.
Right. Yeah. I think that's super interesting. Like if you were to
Mhm.
just be a fly on the wall at X college and to hear their discussion and to see like two amazing
Mm,
students' applications, right? Like
mm,
all of the things, great grades, high classes, activities, well rounded, and one submitted test scores and they were okay,
mhm.
and one didn't. I would
Yep,
love to just hear the rationale because they're supposed to demonstrate success.
right.
But if there are other indicators that do. So
Yes.
I'll put that on banking that
Uh,
for future
yes,
topic. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right, for another day.
Well, thank you so much.
You are
I
welcome. Thank
appreciate
you,
you
Amy.
being here. You're a wealth of knowledge, and we'll talk to you
Yes.
soon.
Alright, see you later.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.